You know that feeling, right? You spend hours and hours studying, highlighting, making notes, only to realize you've retained absolutely nothing. It's a super common problem, but the answer isn't to study harder, it's to study way, way smarter. Today, we're going to unlock a much better way to learn. Let's get into it.
I mean, does this look familiar? You're highlighting, you're rereading pages, you feel like you're being so productive, but the second you close that book, poof, it's all gone. Your mind is just a blank slate. You, my friend, have just fallen into a classic trap, and we're about to show you how to climb out of it for good.
So here's what's really going on. It's called the illusion of mastery. See, our brains are kind of lazy. They mistake the warm, fuzzy feeling of recognizing information for the actual hard work of understanding it. Just skimming your notes or zoning out during a lecture isn't really learning. It's just creating these super weak connections that fade almost instantly.
All right, so how do we fix this? Well, we need to start a little revolution in our own minds. It's all about making a shift from being a passive receiver of information to becoming an active creator of knowledge.
Think about it this way. Passive learning is like you're just a passenger in a car. Yeah, you're moving, but you're not in control. You're not making any of the decisions. Active learning, that puts you right in the driver's seat. Instead of just rereading, you're explaining it out loud. Instead of skimming, you're solving problems. You are doing something meaningful with the information, and honestly, that makes all the difference.
Now, this is where it gets really fun. How do we actually put this stuff into practice? We're going to borrow two incredibly powerful mental models used by some of the most brilliant minds on the planet to get that deep, lasting understanding we're all after.
Okay, tool number one comes from the legendary Nobel Prize-winning physicist Richard Feynman. People called him the Great Explainer for a reason. His whole technique is built on one simple but totally profound idea. You don't truly understand something until you can explain it simply.
So here's how it works. And the real magic? It happens in step 2, trying to teach it to a kid. Why a kid? Because you can't hide behind big, fancy jargon. You're forced to get to the simple truth of the matter. And getting stuck? That's not failure. It's like a flare going up, showing you exactly where your knowledge gaps are. This whole loop, teach, get stuck, refine, it is the fastest way to really, truly get it.
And Feynman lived by this. I mean, think about it. If a Nobel laureate admitted that not being able to simplify a topic meant that he didn't get it, well, that gives all of us permission to be that honest with ourselves. Jargon is so often just a mask we wear to hide that we don't really know what we're talking about.
Let's move on to our second tool, which builds on this perfectly. This is first principles thinking. Now, most of us, most of the time, think by analogy. We do things because, well, that's how it's always been done. This method is all about dismantling that way of thinking.
It's basically a 3-step deconstruction process. First, you hunt down your assumptions. Then, you break the whole problem down to its absolute most fundamental truths. You know, like taking a Lego house apart into individual bricks. And only then, once you're looking at a pile of bricks, can you build a solution from scratch and realize you can build a spaceship instead of just another boring house.
And here's a massive real-world example. Elon Musk looked at the space industry and he questioned the biggest assumption of all, that rockets have to be astronomically expensive. He just refused to accept that's the market price as a fundamental truth. So what did he do? He broke the rocket down to its first principles. What is it actually made of? Okay, aluminum, titanium, carbon fiber. And when he calculated what those raw materials actually cost on the open market, he found something completely shocking. The actual stuff to build the rocket, it was only 2% of the final price tag. 2%. And that one insight, that single first principle, it changed everything. The problem wasn't the materials. They were cheap. The problem was how they were being put together, the manufacturing. The solution? Build your own rockets from the ground up. And that, of course, is exactly what SpaceX did. So you're using these awesome new tools, but how do you track your progress? How do you know if you're actually moving from that fuzzy, surface-level recognition to deep, solid learning? Well, believe it or not, there's a map for that. It's called the Solo Taxonomy. It all starts at the unistructural level. This is where, one single isolated fact. It's a starting point for sure, but that piece of knowledge is just kind of floating out there on its own. Then you move up to multi-structural. At this point, you can list a bunch of different facts about a topic, but they're kind of like groceries you just threw in a bag. All the ingredients are there, but they aren't connected into a meal yet. This is still what we'd call
surface-level understanding.
But this is the big one. This is the leap. At the relational level, you finally start connecting the dots. You can explain cause and effect. You can compare and contrast ideas. You see how all those individual facts actually fit together into one coherent picture. This is real deep learning.
And finally, we have the highest level, extended abstract. This is true mastery. This is when you can generalize your knowledge, create totally new theories, and apply your understanding to a completely different field, like using a concept from biology to solve a problem in your business.
Okay, we have covered some seriously powerful ideas here, from active learning to the mental models of geniuses. But look, the most important part of all of this is turning what you now know into something you actually do.
And I know, this can feel like a lot to take in, but the first step is actually incredibly simple. The only question is, where do you start?
Here is the key takeaway for today. Don't try to master this whole system at once. Just pick one tool. Just one. If you want to really get a solid handle on something you're studying right now, use the Feynman Technique. If you're trying to solve a tough problem in a totally new way, give first principles thinking a shot. So I'll just leave you with this one question. Now that you're armed with these new tools, what is the one thing you're going to pick, break down, and truly, deeply understand? Starting right now.